1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Oh, holy crap. The Gremlins are attacking everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year coming up. Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa.
Christmas, you little
Honeybee was just telling me how
bitches.
much she hates Christmas.
I fucking hate Christmas. If you hate the holidays and
Is
you
it
hate
is it
Christmas,
because
cheers.
Honeybee, is it because your father dressed up as Santa Claus and got stuck halfway down the chimney and died? Is that why you hate Christmas?
He fell and broke his neck, and I found out that Santa wasn't real, and it's just never been the same for me since.
Ladies and gentlemen, today for our Christmas special, we're talking about Gremlins, which contains the most awesome monologue in any movie ever, in which Phoebe Cates explains why she hates Christmas so much.
Oh my god!
Which they then make fun of in the second movie by having her begin to tell a story about why she hates Lincoln's birthday.
Wow.
But then gets cut off before she can finish it. Have you seen Gremlins 2?
If I have, I don't remember it. Like, I didn't even really remember this movie. I definitely seen it before, but
Right.
I really only remember, like, bits and pieces, like, the creatures themselves and stuff. But I do remember my mom wanting to show me this movie and being really excited for me to see it more than I remember the actual movie itself. But it was so funny, and I had a fucking blast watching this movie.
Well, this is a comedy, but Gremlins 2 takes that up to 11 and just becomes a straight up satire of society and television and whatnot. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it is in no way a serious movie at all. It just takes it's not just a comedy, it's like a ridiculous movie. But in a good way. So Gremlins is from 1984. Mm-hmm. It is described as a comedy horror film directed by Joe Dante. There is a sequel, and there is also a prequel cartoon series, which is streaming on Max, if that interests you. It was written by Chris Columbus. It is 106 minutes. It's from the United States in English. The budget was $11 million. Box office $212.9 million. So good for them. Yeah.
I do remember this movie making me want a Furby real bad.
Furby. For some reason, this movie, set at Christmas time, was theatrically released on June 8th in 1980.
What the hell?
Yeah, I know. That's nuts. So even though we're calling it a Christmas movie, apparently the studio didn't feel it was a Christmas movie, or they would have released it at Christmas time.
Well, I mean, I guess they did great, so it doesn't matter that much, I guess, because they still made 200 some odd million off of it. But still, yeah, you would think.
It's a weird choice.
Yeah. Very weird choice.
Well, you know, there's an ongoing debate of whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Bruce Willis and I both say it is not. Yes, because it takes place at Christmas, but it doesn't really deal with the themes of Christmas at all. It just happens to be an office Christmas party.
Yeah, but this movie,
but it's certainly not
for sure, is a Christmas movie, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't you say Bruce Willis? I know you're listening to this.
It is certainly a movie that takes place at Christmas, but they use Christmas music throughout. There is the whole, subplot about why she hates Christmas. The gremlin is a Christmas present, so I think this is a much stronger argument for this being a Christmas movie than Die Hard. The cast is Zach Galligan as Billy Peltzer, Phoebe Cates as Kate Berenger, Hoyt Axton as Randall Rand Peltzer, Polly Holliday as Ruby Deagle, Frances Lee McCain as Lynn Peltzer, Judge Reinhold as Gerald Hopkins, Dick Miller as Murray Futterman. Weren't Judge and Phoebe both in Fast Times at Ridgemont High together?
Yes, they were.
Dick Miller as Murray Futterman. Glenn, isn't he the one that's watching her when she gets out of the pool?
Yes. And wanking it.
Yeah. Glenn Truman as Roy Hansen. Key Luke as Mr. Wing. You would probably not be familiar with him, but he was number one son in the Charlie Chan movies, and he was also the blind kung fu master in the TV series Kung Fu.
Oh.
Scott Brady as Sheriff Frank Riley. Corey Feldman as Pete Fontaine. Jonathan Banks as Deputy Brett Fry. Edward Andrews as Ronald Corbin. Jackie Joseph as Sheila Futterman. Belinda Belaski as Mrs. Joe Harris. Harry Carey Jr. as Mr. Anderson. Nick Cat and Tracy Wells as schoolchildren. John Louise as Mr. Wing's grandson. Kenny Davis as Dory Mushroom as Barney. That's the dog. John C. Beecher as Dr. Molinar. And for voices, we have Howie Mandel as Gizmo. Frank Welker, who's been in a couple other things we've watched, as Stripe. Frank Welker does Fred on Scooby-Doo and does Scooby-Doo in some Scooby-Doo. He wasn't the original Scooby-Doo, but he took over when that guy died. Don Steele as Rockin' Ricky Rialto. That's the DJ that we hear, and Don Steele was a famous DJ. I don't know why they didn't just have him play himself. Marvin Miller, uncredited, as Robbie the Robot. I think they were just using sound samples from the movie.
Yeah, because
Honeybee
they're
Robbie
like his
the
exact
Robot
lines.
Yeah. Robbie the Robot is in this movie.
I
Ladies
know.
and
Aren't
gentlemen.
you proud of me that I noticed and that I knew who he was?
I do.
And you weren't like,
I
"Hey,
am.
did you recognize this?" And I'm like, no."
So I can't remember. This might be one of the things that I saw before I saw Forbidden Planet. I can't remember. But Robbie the Robot, I think, folks, if you haven't heard our Forbidden Planet episode, that's because you're not a patron. Go to patreon.com/MMFTG to support us there and listen to our patron exclusive episodes like the Forbidden Planet one. But I believe I mentioned in that one that Robbie shows up in all kinds of stuff after Forbidden Planet, and this is one of those things.
Yeah.
He
was actually using like
Inventors.
The Inventors Convention. I thought it was weird that he
goes to
was
the Inventors
saying
Convention.
just his exact lines.
Right.
Like when
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
like,
And
okay.
just kind of randomly chosen. Like, is 60 quarts okay? You know, is 60 gallons?
yeah,
Will 60 gallons be sufficient? I'm like, nobody asked you anything. Yeah, they just have him on a loop. It might be that when you rent the robot, it comes with a bunch of pre-recorded lines. And they just set him to playing in the background. Because the father's on the telephone and Robbie's there outside the phone booth. And is just spouting lines from Forbidden Planet. There is a cameo by Steven Spielberg, who was the executive producer, as man riding recumbent bicycle.
Oh.
And a couple of these other cameos, I don't know who the hell they are. One of them was like the composer, I think. But Chuck Jones as Mr. Jones, Billy's drawing mentor. Chuck Jones is a famous animator from Warner Brothers. He did the How the Grinch Stole Christmas, things like that.
Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones.
So that is our very long cast. Honeybee, what are your initial thoughts on Gremlins?
Oh man, so my initial thoughts are This movie is hysterical. The dog, Benny, is the real star of the show. That acting was so good. I love that the Gremlins are like the bad guys, but they're also like smoking 3 cigarettes at a time and like just being complete menaces to society. This movie made me laugh so hard. I was excited to watch it because, like I said, I do remember when my mom was like, "Oh, you have to see this movie. You're gonna love it so much." And then I just don't really remember the movie. I just kind of remember the creatures themselves. But then watching gosh, I just had such a blast watching this movie. It made me laugh so hard. The deaths are hysterical. The fact that these tiny little gremlins are, just like taking over and creating all of this chaos just made me so warm and fuzzy inside. This is a real Christmas movie, okay? Like the Hallmark bullshit, I can't stand it. I hate Christmas music. I don't really have, I am a Grinch. Like I don't really have, or maybe I'm a Scrooge. I don't know. I just don't really have the Christmas spirit. I really just dislike the holiday season and everything that comes with it, and this movie is the movie I can get behind. Remember when we did that movie where it was like Santa was like going around killing everybody? That was another good one for me.
The robot.
Yeah, I really loved it so much. And I will say also that the first time I recognized a lot of people in the cast, which I always love because, especially since it's a movie like before I was born, it was cool to see these people, like, oh, I know this guy. Oh, I recognize this face. But it also, seeing, Phoebe Cates? As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah.
Do you know that movie? Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I know that movie. Yeah.
It was like, it was one of my favorite movies when I was growing up, and I was very excited to see her, and I just loved this movie. It was so cute, and it is a Christmas movie that I can get behind, because you know how everyone's like, oh my god, it's Christmas time, let's get our hot chocolate and like watch our like Christmas Hallmark movies. I think this is like that movie for me. Like I could pop open in like a 40, like a Mickey's, and watch Gremlins, and like it gives me the same warm fuzzy feeling. Like I feel like this is my version of that. So yeah, I loved it.
Okay. Honeybee, I have some news for you.
Uh-oh.
You will be visited by 3 spirits tonight. We're going to teach your ass about the true meaning of Christmas, so brace yourself.
Yay. How exciting for me.
Okay. So, Honeybee, what is this movie really about?
This movie is really about...
It's really about how white people fuck everything up. It's how white people fuck everything up. This guy appropriates
is a whitey gonna white
this element of he appropriates this element of Chinese culture and immediately fucks it up. Doesn't follow the rules, doesn't respect it properly.
Yeah, what was with the guy who was like, they're gremlins, the foreigners are bringing them, they're smuggling them into the country and hiding them in vehicles. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, we fought them in World War II. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
He doesn't mean that literally.
Oh.
Because the name, I don't think so. I don't think he's that crazy. Gremlins, the idea of Gremlins first appeared in actually World War I in the Royal Air Force and then continued in World War II. And this was just a thing they would, when something went wrong with the airplane, they would say it's Gremlins.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then it actually turned into a sort of a propaganda thing. Like there'd be little, information posters. Don't let Gremlins get, basically, take care of your equipment. Playing on the idea that, look, you're blaming Gremlins for this shit, but really you haven't maintained your equipment properly. So don't let Gremlins get to the machinery. Maintain your equipment. Do all your proper maintenance.
Weird.
So the idea that gremlins are in the machine messing it up. There's an old Warner Brothers cartoon about that. There's other things, but in like I think there's a Twilight Zone about it, or I don't know if the thing on the plane in that famous episode is meant to be a gremlin, but then the idea that they might get into other machinery, cars and things like that, comes later. So I think this guy's talking about the idea we dealt with gremlins during World War II, and now they're here in the cars. But I don't think he really means it literally.
Okay,
but then it ends up
does
literally
make more
happening.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that part at all. I was like, what the fuck is he
Well,
talking
he does have,
about?
and that's the same guy who's like, oh, this car's great. This is an American car, not like those shitty foreign cars.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the car breaks down, it's not because there could possibly be a fault in an American car. It's because those foreign gremlins got into it. But I think he's actually correct. In a way, he's correct in that I think the actual gremlins have gotten into it.
You know what the gremlins sort of remind me of? But just sort of. Not like really, but kind of. Just because like the way they talk and their like little chattery laugh and stuff. They kind of remind me of like Minions. Like the Minions from Despicable Me. Right? How they're just their little like how they like communicate with each other and their little like chattery laugh. I really love horror comedy. Like, like Benny Loves You. Like that sort of and so just like the little like creepy laughs and like messing shit up and like the destruction, just like it just like pings me in such a way. I just love it so much. It makes me giggly and so happy. And maybe that is the gremlin inside of me. Maybe I am a gremlin.
I have some little teeny tiny gremlins around here somewhere from a game. It was presented as a game, but really it was just, here's some little gremlin figures, and here's a piece of paper and some rules if you want to play this game with them. But we know that's not the real reason you're buying them.
Aw, cute.
And I've used them in D&D games because they're that size. Anyway, let's get to the plot of this movie. Struggling inventor, thank you Wikipedia for the plot summary. Struggling inventor Randall Peltzer visits a Chinatown antique store, hoping to find a Christmas present for his son Billy. Actually, I think he goes in there trying to sell his smokeless ashtray, or his
it's his bathroom
bathroom buddy, his bathroom buddy. But then when he sees the gremlin, he thinks, oh, this would be a good present. Inside, Randall encounters a small furry creature called a Mogwai, which it says here is Cantonese for devil.
Oh, shit.
The owner, Mr. Wing, so I guess it's not a made-up word, it's an actual Chinese word. The owner, Mr. Wing, refuses to sell Randall the creature, but his grandson secretly does, warning Randall to remember 3 important rules. Do not expose the Mogwai to light, especially sunlight, which will kill it. Do not let it come in contact with water. And above all, never feed it after midnight. So, Mogwai are dry, clean only. Randall returns home to Kingston Falls, where he gives the Mogwai to Billy as a pet. Billy works in the local bank, but fears that his dog Barney will be put down by widowed miser Mrs. Deagle.
Fuck you, Mrs. Deedle.
Yeah. I don't think she has the authority to do that. Randall names the Mogwai Gizmo
bitch.
And explains she is. That, I believe, is she played Flo on the TV series Alice. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I didn't, but I did feel like I recognized her.
That's and she had her spin-off as well. Playing the same character in a spin-off.
Okay.
Let's see. The 3. So he explains, Randall names it Gizmo and explains the 3 rules. Gizmo is friendly and docile, but when Billy's young friend Pete accidentally spills water over Gizmo, 5 more Mogwai spawn from his back. A more troublemaking sort led by the aggressive Stripe. Yeah, that was pretty gross.
It was so gross.
Named for the tuft of fur on his head. Billy shows one of the Mogwai to his former elementary school science teacher, Mr. Hansen, spawning another Mogwai on whom Hansen experiments.
Mr.
Back at home,
Hansen's-
Stripe and his fellow Mogwai attack.
Mr. Hansen's kind of a little bit. He was kind of rude, not to anybody, but to the little Mogwai. Like he's like, I know he's just trying to run tests and stuff, but like, damn, you gonna put him in a cage? Like Gizmo's not in a cage. He just like puts him in a cage and then like does all these tests, like draws his blood and shit. And I was just like, ew, like rude. I don't like this.
Back at home, Stripe and his fellow Mogwai trick Billy into feeding them after midnight by severing the power cord on his alarm clock. They form cocoons, as does Hansen's Mogwai, which soon hatch. Did Hansen also feed him after midnight?
Well, he
Emerging
left.
as
He was like
mischievous
eating
dark-
a sandwich. He's like eating a sandwich. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to call it a night. And he just, he takes a bite of his sandwich, looks up at the clock, realizes it's like 2:30 in the morning. He's like, well, I'm going to call it a night. And then just walks out, but doesn't take his sandwich. I was like, well, that's not very believable. Like,
Do you want gremlins? Because that's how you get gremlins. So, anyway, they soon hatch, emerging as mischievous dark green reptilian monsters called Gremlins, who then torture Gizmo and attack Billy's mother, Lynn. Hansen is killed by his gremlin. Is he the only one that is actually killed, or do they kill other
no,
people?
they kill Miss Deedle's bitch ass.
That's right. That's right. These guys seem like they were pretty mischievous to start with. I don't know that they needed to. They were clearly already evil if they were like, hey, if we can eat after midnight, we'll become evil. Like, you're already evil. just keep doing it. But if you become obviously evil by turning into something gross looking, that's going to make it harder on you. Lynn and Billy are able to kill off the gremlins except for Stripe, who escapes to the local YMCA. There, Stripe jumps into the swimming pool, spawning an army of gremlins who wreak havoc in Kingston Falls. Many people are injured or outright killed. Oh, there it is right there. By the Gremlins rampage, including Mrs. Deagle. Billy reports this to the police, but they prove to be no help as they don't believe his story, even after he shows them Gizmo. People are a little underwhelmed by this, heretofore unknown creature that appears to be sentient. They're just like, oh, isn't he cute? Instead of, holy crap, what is that? Did it just speak?
Bright light, bright light.
As Billy rescues his girlfriend, she is not his girlfriend yet, Kate Berenger. He's just a girl that he likes, who he's just now finally got up the nerve to ask out. They hide in the now abandoned bank, where Kate reveals to Billy and Gizmo why she hates Christmas.
Okay, but we gotta talk about. We gotta talk about before this, when like all the gremlins are like at the bar she works at, and she's just serving them. Like, bitch, what are you doing? Why? She's like, just don't bite me. Like pouring liquor and like giving them an ashtray, giving them popcorn and shit. I'm like, get the fuck out of there. Right. What are you doing? Are they tipping you?
She didn't call she should have called the police.
Well, the police were drunk and not listening anyway. She doesn't need to say there's gremlins.
She could just say there's trouble here at the bar. What was that?
I said the police were already drunk and didn't give a shit anyway.
When she was 9 years old, her father went missing on Christmas Eve and did not come home on Christmas Day either. Several days later, he was found dead in their chimney. Was this when he started to stink? I don't remember how they found him. Or did they start a fire and it clogged up? Anyway, dressed as Santa Claus. Planning to surprise her and her mother, he had accidentally slipped and broken his neck while climbing down the chimney. Still suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, Kate confesses this is how she discovered the truth about Santa Claus. Billy and Kate discover that the town has fallen silent and the gremlins are watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the local theater because they know how to thread a movie projector. They set off a natural gas explosion, incinerating all the gremlins except for Stripe, who left to commandeer more candy at a Montgomery Ward store across the street. As morning approaches, they follow Stripe into the department store, where Stripe attempts to use a fountain to spawn more gremlins. Gizmo opens a skylight, exposing Stripe to sunlight, killing him.
Oh,
as the local news reports on the day's mysterious tragedies, Mr. Wing reclaims Gizmo at the Peltzer home. He scolds the Peltzers for their negligence and criticizes Western society, as this entire movie does, for its carelessness with nature. However, as he turns to leave, Gizmo, having bonded with Billy, bids the young man goodbye.
Bye,
A touched
Billy.
Mr. Wing then concedes that Billy may be ready one day, and until then, Gizmo will be waiting. Do not let him have Gizmo back. This movie not only had its own sequel, it says something here about an advertisement on British Telecom. I don't know. I guess they used them in a commercial. But it spawned a bunch of knockoffs in the following years about tiny little monsters wreaking havoc, such as Ghoulies, Troll, Hobgoblins, and Munchies. I just watched Munchies recently for the first time because they were doing it on How Did This Get Made? And it's bad. It is bad. Some of those movies, like Ghoulies, have gone on to have many, many sequels. Critters has like 5 sequels. I think Ghoulies has more than 1 sequel, but I know Critters has like 5 of them. Ghoulies has 4. And then some more direct-to-video. Yeesh.
Jesus.
Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. So, yeah, lots of... Now, at least one of those, though, I'm not sure if it was Critters. One of them, I saw something recently claiming it was not a Gremlins ripoff, that it was already in production, and they actually made some changes. After Gremlins came out, they made some changes to the script to make it less like Gremlins.
Damn.
So sometimes that does happen. You just get 2 things, you get 2 Robin Hood movies coming out the same year, even though they were developed independently and didn't necessarily even know the other one was happening until it was too late. Or you get the Addams Family and the Munsters that seem to be ripping each other off, but they were both being developed at the same time. So who can say for certain? So Honeybee, how did you like Gremlins?
I loved it. It was so fun. It made me so happy. I freaking loved it. And there were so many things, like parts in the movie where like I could remember, like, oh man, like when Stripe is on the skateboard. Like I remember at one point in my life, at some point seeing like a Gremlins, toy that like where it was like, a gremlin on a skateboard, and just like kind of seeing those things. It was just so happy. I really loved it. I had so much fun watching it. I laughed my ass off. The deaths, it's just so funny that it's like a comedy horror, and that like that point when Stripe is like throwing the handsaw blades and like throwing shit at the main character, and he's like on the ground. It's like, get up and kick him, but it's just so funny that these like little tiny chaotic monsters are just like fucking shit up. It just made me super happy, and I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I loved it. I'm glad that you chose this movie for our Christmas special.
What are you gonna rate it? How many stars of Bethlehem are you going to give?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Gremlins.
I'm going to give it 4 stars.
4? Okay.
4.
Gee, I was thinking of giving it 5.
You should. You absolutely should. Oh, something else that I really loved about this movie was the house phones. Just like kind of seeing the like when someone, when something is happening and they have to call each other. They just have to be in that specific place. Like there are no cell phones. Like the teacher, when the
Right.
gremlin hatches, he can't just like text Billy and be like, Billy, it happened. He has to like go to the wall and like ring, ring,
Right.
ring, and then call him. And then Billy has to be at the bar, which I don't know how he knew he was at the bar, but he had to be at the bar with his girlfriend so that he could like answer the phone and be like, I'll be right there. And that was nice. That was a good blast from the past. Just to like, it reminds
folks,
me of
phones
like,
used to be attached to walls.
yeah. And there used to be a dial tone. I miss dial tones,
Even if it wasn't mounted on the wall, the cord was attached to the wall.
Mm-hmm. And at one point, the mom has to answer the phone. Yeah, and the mom has to, like, answer the phone, but the dad has invented some, like, stupid-ass thing, because none of his inventions actually work. And she, like, is trying to use it, and it's, like, sort of like a cell phone type thing. Yeah, and it doesn't work, so she has to, like, walk over
It was
the phone.
basically a cord. This was a between those phones and cell phones, there were cordless phones.
Yeah, but they
and
died.
He's trying to invent that, but it doesn't actually
exist
exist
yet. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's what he's trying to invent. But his isn't working quite right. It won't pick up. So, yeah, that's.
I kind of love
that till just now.
Yeah, I kind of love that all of his inventions suck, and like his whole family knows it, but they love him and are so supportive of him anyway that they're just like, "Oh, it's great. We'd love to use it." Somehow. I don't know how, because I just recently
saw a video. I think it was posted on Twitter when the telephone company was kind of transitioning from switchboards to dialing it yourself. They put out these educational videos explaining how to dial a telephone.
Wow.
And the woman's using a really oversized dial to demonstrate how it works. And talking about how you got to keep going all the way around till your finger touches the little finger stop, and then just let it go to return on its own to the start position. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy that we like have these cell phones. They're like in our hands all the time. It's not even just a phone anymore. It's like this whole ass computer.
Yes, I call it my pocket computer. Mm-hmm. So, I'll give it 5 stars. I saw it when it was new in the theaters. And then I'm sure I saw it multiple times on like HBO or whatever after that.
Yeah.
But I hadn't watched it in many years until I decided to pick it for this. So
it was so fun.
Yeah, it's important.
It was so
I think
fun.
It's an important part of American film culture. Certainly an influential film. They keep talking about making a third one, and I see things online claiming that's moving forward, but I don't know. The fact that they made this cartoon prequel might be an indication that they're seriously thinking of making a third sequel.
Highly recommend.
I think it'll have Billy in it. I don't know. Phoebe seems to have kind of retired from acting, but maybe they can get her to come back to do Gremlins. So there you go, folks. Gremlins streaming on Max. The artist formerly known as HBO. Stupidest business decision ever, changing the name to Max. So let us know what you think of Gremlins. Send us a message. Go to mmftg.com to find the links for all of our things. Consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/mmftg. Next week, I believe, is it 50-Foot Woman? Yes, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. We missed it. We skipped it by accident. So we're going back to before we begin our third season, we're going back to 1993 to talk about the TV movie. That was a HBO production. Speaking of HBO, this was an original movie on HBO, not in the theaters. Remake of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. But until then, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey Bee, and happy holidays, you filthy animals.
Yes, Merry Christmas and all the other holidays to everybody. And remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements. And do not get them wet or feed them after midnight.
Or sunlight. Don't misuse science.
Yes,
for fuck's sake.
if you do those last two things, then you're gonna have to do the first thing, even though you're not supposed to. Did you say the thing?
Yeah, I did. Don't misuse science. Love you guys.
Okay, yeah. Don't misuse science. Don't misappropriate Chinese culture. We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Woo!
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MNFTG.